Hello guys, welcome back to our city Skylines region of Coniferia. Past couple of weeks I've been uploading I guess some more creative stuff from my side, and it's been a lot of fun working with, but I think it's time that we get back to the bread and butter, which is currently our region of Coniferia, and we continue just building out the region and adding some more narrative and stories to the areas that we create. And what better place to start than in the hopefully highly distinctive neighborhood of Brickville that we've been working on for a couple of episodes now, actually. Now, without going too much into the history of Brickville, I'll link a few of the previous episodes where we worked on this area in the description down below. Then it is a row house heavy former working class area. I say former working class, but as today's episode will hopefully showcase, it's not quite former working class just yet. It's a little more tricky than that. But it used to be the first and primary working class area of Port Douglas, and it kind of spawned around the industrial harbor that was built, that we're gonna start working on in hopefully not too many episodes. Today it's the area that you see on the screen that we've built so far are pretty heavily gentrified, which means that it used to be working class, but you don't have many working class people living here anymore. Today it's populated by highly educated yuppies. That's the kind of people that spend $9 for a cup of coffee. Yeah, that type of people. And this of course means that an area that used to be a bit rough, had issues with drug abuse, prostitution as well, is actually quite a nice place to raise a family today. It is an inner city neighborhood, obviously, so you have to kind of enjoy city life. But in one of the previous episodes, I asked you guys where you would prefer to live if you could live anywhere in Coniferia, and some of you actually mentioned that these tightly knit row house districts here in Brickville are just perfect for what you'd like to see. What we're gonna hopefully be able to achieve in today's episode is to kind of create a transitioning zone between this more gentrified area of Brickville and a more rough part of Brickville. So let's jump into Brickville so that I can kind of put some visuals on what I'm thinking. So what we've been developing so far is this large chunk of the area, and I say a large chunk because my intention was actually that this entire area here be classified as Brickville. So currently we've only marked this district, but in reality all of this is what is referred to as Brickville, because the industrial harbor will be around this area. What I'm gonna do is I am going to create two districts, and we're going to have an Inner Brickville and an Outer Brickville. So this area that we've almost filled out completely, we'll name Inner Brickville, and Autumn District. Fantastic default naming game. We'll name it Outer Brickville. There you go. And what I'd like to try and achieve in this episode is the transitionary zone between these two distinct neighborhoods, or hopefully distinct neighborhoods at least. The idea is that Inner Brickville has been, rapidly gentrifying, but Outer Brickville, gentrification and, super expensive coffee hasn't really invaded this area yet. So it's hopefully I'm hopefully gonna be able to make it look a lot more rough around the edges, and It's gonna be tricky because when we build stuff in City Skylines, we sort of work with, like, we try to create a microcosmos of the real world because we are limited in, the scale of the cities that we can build. There are just natural limitations to the game. So everything we try and build is on, a smaller scale. And it can be pretty hard, for me at least I find, to create distinct areas, or rather the transitioning zones between distinct areas, because we do work with, smaller scale. So that's gonna be the challenge, I guess, of this build. It's gonna be to, have this area sort of showcase a transition from the nicer parts, which is Inner Brickville, to the more rough part, which is Outer Brickville. One thing I'd like to attempt to do in order to achieve this is to create a park around here, I think, or maybe around here even. Yeah, let's just get that going. I'd like to try and have a park that kind of cuts through the whole area. And it's probably officially gonna be named like Brickville Park or something, but in the tongue of Port Docklians, it used to be named Pusher Park. It's not a bad place anymore, but it used to be a bit rough around the edges. It used to be a place for drug distributors and prostitution and the likes, but that's not really the case anymore. But what I think I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna try and create the park to separate Brickville into two. And I think I am going to we'll see if this will work. But my idea is that the park is a bit asymmetrical. Oh, sorry, not the actual park, but that the road layout isn't completely perfect, if you could say that. I would like to have it stretch over here, and then I'm gonna connect these segments. And this will make sense in just a second, hopefully. I just need to make sure that I have some nodes here so that I can properly connect these segments. It seems I do. Great, that's just what I wanted. So the reason I've made this layout is to kind of showcase that, initially this small road did actually cut through here, but as this bridge with the trams were added later on, then due to an intersection being created here, quite a big one to support trams, it needs to support the smooth curving here. Then the old intersection here was actually removed, so now we've just got this. So this is gonna be the park, so I'm just gonna remove these small roads, and yeah, I think this is actually a pretty good area. We've already sorta made we've already sort of started the transition a couple of episodes ago, if you guys remember, because I did kind of drip in a few industrial lots in this part of Inner Brickville. So I mean, an area isn't rough because it's industrial, but it sort of adds to the whole vibe of the area, right? So we've already sort of begun with this. We've also got an empty alleyway here, basically. And I guess this sort of transition is what we're gonna try and achieve a bit more of here, because I don't want the gentrified look of Inner Brickville to have like a super high contrast with the part of Outer Brickville that's the closest. Does that make sense? What I'm basically trying to say is I don't want too much of a contrast between the area that we'll be creating right here, so right next to the park in Inner Brickville, and the area right here, so right next to the park in Outer Brickville. I don't want too much for it to be too distinct. It has to be kind of smooth, but let's just try and get started, and we'll see how it goes. All right, let's just take a quick recap of what we've built. Just let's take a recap of this small area. I think something I have to be very mindful about is the overall level of details. We went a bit ham with detailing Inner Brickville, and while it does look very nice, we need to think in, you know, the grand scheme of things. And yeah, we can't detail every inch of the map like that. My computer is gonna crash and burn basically. But this is I think this is quite nice. It's a bit of a mixture, so once again I managed to sneak a bit of industrial stuff in here, and most of these row houses are of course quite nice and you know, in good shape, and you know, backyards aren't completely wrecked. So all in all, not too bad. But as is also visible from this unit, for instance, here's just, you know, an ugly fence. There's a bit of trash here just randomly laying around, and we've got a bit of graffiti, you know, Kermit the Frog with his A-cap tattoos. So yeah, I mean, Kermit is a good you know, precursor to a rough area. As soon as you start seeing Kermit show up on you know, the walls, you know things are turning for the worse. But of course we're still in technically Inner Brickville, so still quite a nice area. Just yeah. I also just realized I made a huge mistake. So I had actually designated this as the, you know, area of the park that runs through Brickville, but obviously I forgot about that plan some, you know, 21 seconds after I made that plan, and whoops. So I guess I'm gonna move the park up here instead. I'm gonna move it one row so that it's here instead. Whoops. I'm gonna go ahead and make these roads slimmer. We're gonna slim them down to let's see, which we need the red and the blue to be slimmed to about 80%, 85 even, and red. And this makes the road quite a bit more narrow, but it still allows for, you know, parked cars and cars to drive on the two central lanes without actually having any collisions. So it really is a sweet spot, if you ask me. But yeah, with this little area being developed, there's we're just gonna continue. We're gonna move across Brickville Avenue, which is of course this large, you know, main arterial that kind of cuts through the entire area, and we're gonna continue over here. All right, let's go through what we've been building. We get a good chunk done in this area. I think let's just start down here. I really did not know what to do with this sort of awkward space between these buildings. I knew I wanted to add a bit of character to this building, so I used procedural objects distort to just add some, make it a more unique shape. It was really, square and bulky looking before. Which reminds me, I need to add population to it, because being a procedural object, it of course doesn't really function in game. What I can do though is I can grab a block service, one of these boxes, and they basically simulate a residential building. So this is a level 3 high density, which provides about 40 households. So I'm gonna place one of these. And I think that's probably fitting for this building. Probably take a few more, but yeah. 40 households, that's probably fine. Cool. Going through the rest, I've sort of mixed a bunch of different building types, but I mean, that's kind of the point of Conifera, right? We really like the creative freedom we have in mixing, lots of brick work, some tree, use the distort with procedural objects mod as well for this building to just lower this part of it, so that it really sort of, it looks like the building is made to fit the slope that we've got going here. And generally it's a bit of a tricky area to work with, because it is actually quite hilly here, lots of variations in the height of the terrain. Luckily, the row houses work really well with terrain like that, because they are so narrow. So even though you'll have a slope like this, then it's really mitigated if you use really slender buildings. So I think it's worked out quite all right. Did place a church here, which is a Brickville church. I'm considering moving it to this area of the park. But I think it adds a nice touch. A bit ironic, of course, to have the church here in the park when it was called, Pusher Park up until a few decades ago. Still a bit of drug trade here, but it's not as bad as it used to be, not at all. Like I said, most of the people that live here, they just, prefer expensive coffee. They're not really into heroin, not yet at least. When the housing bubble occurs, they might get into heroin, but for now, it's just coffee. Row house area here with some industrial mixed in along the train tracks. What I tried to kind of emphasize here, this is actually the boundary right between Inner and Outer Brickville. So we've got a few more empty lots in here between buildings, and I think some of these row houses that I've used look a bit rough around the edges. Also, something some of you may have noticed, these really beautiful, almost neoclassical Montreal row houses. I've stopped using them over here as we are crossing into Outer Brickville, which I guess kind of indicates that even 100 years ago, Inner Brickville was actually more desirable than Outer Brickville. It was really close to the industrial harbor we're going to be building, but it was also kind of, retreated just a bit from the harbor. So it was still an easy walk, but overall, the pollution, the smog, the noise levels were just lower, which resulted in a few of the row houses being a bit better looking. So what I'm gonna do now is fill in this empty space, and I think we're gonna need to look into some services, at least a school, because we don't actually have a school in Port Douglas yet, which is insane. And I need something that looks sort of high density. Maybe, yeah, this actually works pretty well. I'll probably remove this frontal parking lot. I'm gonna use Bob. Let's see if we can grab just the front parking lot and let the other one stay. Can I find it? Parkings. I can't. I'm gonna have to remove all of the parking. Oh, there's actually a space more. We don't actually have to remove this one. We don't want a single space back there. Invisible parking space. Yes. There you go. We can always add some custom parking if need be. And I think we actually have a bit of a need here. And here I think I'm just gonna add some sort of maybe a playground or a park or something. I'd like a bit of an open space here. Otherwise I'm just gonna make it too dense, and that's really not the point. When I've filled this in, I think we're gonna start to see if we can just fill out this empty area here with development. So alongside Brickville Park or Pusher Park, whatever you prefer. Let's have a go at it. All right, let's take a little recap of what we've built. So we moved across Pusher Park and have really been filling out of Brickville, and I think it's turned out all right. We've got a bit of a mix of industrial units, residential, some commercial establishments here. We've got some rows of houses that are pretty well kept. Others are a bit out of shape. We've got a bit of a higher prevalence of like empty lots around this area as well. Might move this industrial unit. Feels a little out of place on this location. But I kind of like the warehouse that I managed to kind of squeeze in here. Looks a bit unique, I think. Moving over here, this block is definitely dominated by this public housing project built in the 1970s. And the history behind this project is much the same as the projects that we see over here. So on these blocks, the row houses or industrial units that used to be there were just too out of shape. You know, had been abandoned for many years, and so the region bought it up to build public housing. In particular during the 1970s, when there were a real housing shortage in Coniferia. There's a housing shortage today as well, which means that some of the, the prices to get into the property market are too high. But, today you don't call that a housing shortage, you call that a healthy economy or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, over here I just started detailing up these lots a bit, trying to make it a bit more grimy. Really like this small section of really well kept row houses here as well. I think there are many types of residents as we move further out of in Outer Brickville, and we're already seeing, of course, some of the young couples moving in as part of gentrification. There's not a lot of that, but there's a bit of it. But we are also seeing some older working class residents that even though that the area has been quite a rough area and that it isn't all that beautiful, some people will just insist on keeping their property and, their backyard really well kept, which I think is just awesome, and it really stands out. And there's a bit of that in Outer Brickville as well. There's definitely some working class people here that really love this area and are serious about, doing what they can to make it look nice, right? And it's for good reason. There's some people here that are soon ready to retire. Maybe sell their property, move into an apartment in downtown Port Douglas to really enjoy city life. And if you want to get a good pension out of your house sale, then you really need the area you have your property into gentrify just a bit. Speaking of which, look at these views. That looks awesome. What do you guys think? I really love the density we have going here in Port Douglas. It's really got a nice big city vibe without having, giant skyscrapers that just dominate the skyline completely. Really cool look. I think moving up, I haven't detailed this up too much yet, and I won't go too heavy. So as you guys can probably see, I'm more and more just using decals and some flora and some bushes, which I really like. I think next up is actually detailing up Pusher Park. Brickville Park, of course. Locals won't like me calling it Pusher Park. But yeah, let's detail this up, make it a bit more nice. Alright guys, I guess this whole area actually resembles a plaza more than a park. Didn't really know what I was going for here, but it took way longer than I initially anticipated, and it turned out way more symmetrical. So the story here is that the city of Pine Harbor spent a bunch of money a couple of years ago completely renovating what was a pretty seedy old park, and actually made way with lots of the wildness of it and made it much more structured. And to some people's annoyance, they choose to, you know, really fill out lots of the area with brick, which of course limits the amount of green space possible. What they did do to kind of compensate was bring in some of these big trees from over on the mainland, so that they didn't have to wait 10-20 years for big trees to appear. The church grounds were renovated as well, with at least an attempt to respect the initial grounds here around the church. There are a couple of things I want to wrap up with before I finish up this episode. One is just doing some basic intersection marking tool detailing of the roads, and then I have to fix this issue, because as you guys can see, the tram stop we've got here right in the middle of Brickville Park is too small. The trams simply don't really fit, so I'm gonna move it over here, which is of course gonna bring it really close to this stop, but we only have this stop temporarily so that we can have, reversible trams. So that's how it is. Alternatively, I might just remove this stop, honestly, because there's a stop right there. I think I'm gonna do that for starters, and there's a stop over here as well. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Let's see if we can just remove trams. Yeah, let's. What is that? Just gonna remove this stop and remove this stop. There you go. And I think this is a prop I have to delete. And in here as well. Cool. We're gonna keep this little wall separating the bike path. That's fine. Alright, so that's the first thing fixed. Then I wanted to add, with some intersection marking tool mod, I wanted to add some markings here as well. And I was thinking about actually seeing if I could add some kind of filler here underneath the decal to create like maybe a red line to kind of match the brick pavement we've got going on. Something like that, maybe. That looks kind of cool. Gonna copy that and see if I can get the same effect over here. Seems I can. Although I will have to adjust just a bit. I don't know why I'm doing this line. It's just for the fun of it, I guess. It's a little odd. But sometimes I find that, just kind of adding some random detail will help with the overall feel of an area. Cool, that added just a bit of extra detail, and then we've got the actual roads here. And I'm thinking of having some big fillers with trees alongside the park, maybe, or at least alongside the church. I don't think you should be able to park right next to the church, actually. So we're gonna go pretty heavy here on the fillers. We're gonna go with grass, good old. And the same over here. And Over here, I'm just gonna remove a node because I think, no, it's just this node that's really big. I'll do like this and adjust just a bit. There you go. And then we can copy paste. We're gonna disallow parking here. We don't want that. Cool. So we got this strip of grass. We could add some flower. Let's see. We've got a shortage of our good old conifers. I think we're actually gonna go with these thick boys. About 8 meters of spacing. And actually, okay, it placed the tall ones. Never mind, that looks alright as well. And then if you guys remember, a solid red line, white line actually indicates that you can park here in Coniferia. We're gonna get some crosswalks here. And I guess if we're adding even more bike paths, there's no way around trying to recreate this path here, which is gonna be very, very interesting. Let's just see if I can create a filler that looks alright. Stripes, sure. If I can just angle them so that they're actually straight. Which for whatever reason is about 31%, something like that. Yeah, fine. And then I should be able to offset this. There you go. And this color is gonna be absolutely impossible for me to find. I am not good with colors. Oh, we're getting there. That's close enough, don't you guys think? How would it actually look if it was solid? I think I'm gonna go with stripes. And then I have to adjust again, it seems. Oh boy. Cool, we are gonna go with that, I think. Or maybe a grid is even cooler. Oh, there are so many decisions. We'll go with stripes. I don't know why, it just looks cool. We'll add it over here. What did I just do? I copied something that, yeah, not what I intended. There you go. Alright guys, I think that wraps up this episode. We got a ton of stuff done and I'm really pleased with how Port Douglas is starting to fledge out. It's really turning into a big nice city. If you stuck with me this far, thank you so much for viewing, yeah, I would really appreciate a like and a comment, of course, and if you haven't subscribed already or enabled notification, that as well. But yeah, I think that's all, folks. So have a really nice day or evening, whatever it is where you're from, and I'll see you guys in whatever I come up with next. Bye. Bye.